Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to N5D Radio's Cosmic Awakening Show, where we are serving this galaxy and beyond. My name is Michelle Walling, and I'll be your host for the next few hours. I'm with N5D.com and HowToExitTheMatrix.com, and our goal is to reach as many people as possible with a database of articles, videos, and radio shows that will help aid you in your spiritual awakening. And at the Cosmic Awakening Show, we encourage you to question everything while raising your vibration. And I'd like to give a very special thanks to my sponsor, Greg Prescott from N5D.com, which is the world's hottest esoteric, physical, and spiritual database on the Internet. N5D is currently ranked in the top 25,000 websites in the world. So thank you for supporting N5D, everyone. Make sure that you click that like button so we know the different articles that you like, and we can continue to provide, what you'd like to read. Greg does update the N5D alternative news page every day, 365 days a year. Plus, he posts new articles every day right there along with the news. Greg is also the webmaster for BodyMindSoulSpirit.com, where you can find great holistic and spiritual awakening articles. And let's not forget HolisticCancerResearch.com, where you can find proof of over 300 holistic cures for cancer. Body, Mind, Soul, Spirit and HolisticCancerResearch.com are really wonderful health and awareness type information that you can share with your family, those that maybe aren't quite awakened yet. There may be certain articles that are actually very calm and, unthreatening to people who are not quite there yet. And, when their curiosity gets up, they remember, oh, there was a web that had something about that, and they get on there and they can start finding, answers to questions that may open up doors for them to graduate to N5D.com and the really deep rabbit hole situations that you can find at HowToExitTheMatrix.com. But I'd like to let everybody know that our motto here at N5D and the Cosmic Awakening Show is no one left behind. And all of my articles and radio shows can be found on my other website called CosmicStarseeds.com. That's just a database of all of the things that I've written, so I can keep up with them and have a reference point to find an article when I need it. And also, if you need some holistic life coach help in trying to get some healing or clearing or figure out what the heck you're really doing on this planet, you can find out about information on life coaching at michellewalling.com. And let's see, where are we going to go today? This is, everything we do is for y'all, and that's my Texas slang, y'all. Most everything that we provide on our websites, we provide for free. Basically, the holistic life coaching is, the only thing that I charge for. This radio show's for free, N5D Radio's for free. We have a premium blog talk channel, which means today we can talk up to 3 hours with our guest if we choose without any interruptions, and I just love that. And all contributions that you can make to keep me on the radio or to keep us with our web pages up, we greatly appreciate. I want to mention that because we have received some very generous donations from some friends out there that just, keep us going, and it's just greatly appreciated. We could not do this without all of you. So a special shout-out to our Facebook friends, Facebook groups, and cosmic family that's listening out there in the universe tonight. I'm happy to have a network of around 200 Facebook groups that I share information with and that I love to scroll my wall and find out, what's going on in the alternative news and, what I find at N5D. And I also help contribute to the news on N5D when I find something. So we all work together, and I'm very, very grateful for my groups. And as always, I have a couple of groups that I want to mention on the air. First, I'd like to say hello to Larry Locken, my former co-host here at Cosmic Awakening Show, and the Fringe Thinkers. Fringe Thinkers, it's a really cool group. And we definitely have to think outside of the box in order to exit this reality and create the reality that we would like to have. Then there's the original group called just Star Seeds, and that has 30,000 plus members. And I just wanted to mention Star Seeds tonight and then for not kicking me out for as much information as I share on that group. Because, sometimes it's like stepping on eggshells with groups. You don't know if they're going to, have some, and when they get that big, sometimes the admins just kick you out for, they call it spamming. And then I'm not selling anything. I'm providing information for humanity. So I just wanted to give special recognition to Starseeds for keeping me this long and allowing me to post information to at least 30,000 plus people. So I really am grateful for that. And let's see, a group that has a particular vibration with this show is the People's Charter for Higher Consciousness. I just love that name. I invite you to check out all of these groups as well as many of the other great groups that I'm in on my personal Facebook page, Michelle Walling. And I just want to say hi to everyone in the chat room. Loveless and Brennan, I don't think that this person has missed one show yet. I am just so grateful to have my Cosmic Awakening Show family with me in the chat room. And if you ever have any questions where you don't feel like calling in, you can just log into the chat room and type it in there, and I'll be sure and try to keep up with all the questions that you may have. So it's good to be back after a 2-week break. My guest, Wes Anak, was unable to join me the first week as he had planned, and then Greg and I had planned on taking a break last week. We were on vacation, and we just got back, and let's just say that we're recuperating from our vacation. And you know how that goes. You plan to go rest, but, you end up needing a rest from your vacation when you get back. But it's really good to be home here in Sarasota, Florida. We have had some thunderstorms the last couple of days. The weather's been cooled off, and I've actually enjoyed the rain very much. This week's topic is contract revocation and sovereignty declaration. And to help me explain what it means to declare your sovereignty and revoke spiritual contracts, I have a friend of mine joining me tonight. I'll be bringing her on in just a few moments. Her name is Mary Jane Banks. And if you'd like to speak to Mary Jane Banks or myself about this topic, please feel free to call in during the second hour of the show. And let me give you that call. It's area code 646-716-8890. And I will repeat that later on in the show when it's time to call in. You'll want to press 1 to make sure that you let me know that you're in the queue. Now, I first met Mary Jane Banks in Mount Shasta at a conference with Andrew Bartzis and Robert Potter back in 2013. And this is the same conference where I met my good friends Lance White and Jeff Gates. Little did I know that I would really become really good Facebook friends with them, be able to run back and forth with ideas. And, I met a lot of great people there. I don't want to leave anybody out, but, Kelly Fluke, and there's just so many. I don't want to leave anybody out, but I'm kind of having a brain fart right now. But when I first heard, let's talk about Andrew Bartzis for a minute. When I first heard about the galactic historian Andrew Bartzis, it was really unlike anything else I had heard of. This was I was in the third year of my awakening, and this man began speaking in what I would say a cosmic language that was fast, and a lot of people could not really understand what the hell he was talking about, but I found it interesting that I understood exactly what he was talking about, and I was at the moment I was really trying to learn how to discern for truth, and it really the things that he was saying vibrated well with me. I mean, and he also worked, very closely with Lance White and Chris Hales, and of course, both of those people are absolutely gems. I totally resonate and know that I'm definitely soul family with them. So, I went to this conference in Mount Shasta, and it was really strange because Rob Potter and this guy named Dale talked most of the conference. But what I did, every now and then Andrew would say something, but what I did notice is he was very, very silent on the stage a lot and allowed the other guys to talk a lot. And I think we have expectations when we go to these things, and what happens sometimes is energetic work is done on us, and we don't really even realize it until we leave, why we were there, or what happened. And that was definitely what happened with Andrew Bartzis. But then back to Mary Jane Banks. After the conference, she wrote what she called a soul revocation, and she shared it with those who were at the conference by email. And then this revocation was basically shared on the internet, and it really it went viral. I hate the word viral, but it did spread, and it became a wonderful guide to learning what should be included in taking your power back and declaring your full I am presence while you're here in this embodiment. And so, Mary Jane and I kept in touch through email. She doesn't really do much Facebook. And then I saw her again at the conference, the N5D conference at Lido Key Beach in October of 2013. And that conference, of course, is where a lot of people know I met Greg Prescott. So it just seems like I haven't been to any conference then. It just seems like I found my family. I found my family over in Mount Shasta, and then I found some more of my family members at the N5D conference, and things just really have taken off since I finally got hooked up with the right people that I needed to, stay in contact with. So Mary Jane was able to actually witness the chemistry that took place between Greg and myself, because she was my roomie for the short period of time that I actually was in the room. She actually got to spend more time in the room than I did. So Mary Jane and I decided that we would have this show. I'm very pleased to introduce Mary Jane Banks to the listening audience, and we're going to discuss sovereignty. And so, Mary Jane, welcome to the Cosmic Awakening Show.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's really good to talk to you. You just have the most wonderful voice, and I just love your accent. Can you remind me where you're from?
I'm originally from Melbourne, Australia.
Well,
probably about 5 minutes away from where Chris Hales lives, which is very funny.
Exactly. I remember. I have some friends, some Aussie friends that have a little bit of English accent and the way they speak. But I just have a thing for that, for your accent, and I just remember meeting up with you again there in Sarasota at Lido Key Beach, and I just have this connection with you. You just know what you did underneath, and I think I even mentioned to you I don't really have a lot of girlfriends. I don't really have a lot of close friends to begin with, but I really don't have a lot of girlfriends. So I really don't really like to hang out with girls. But you weren't like the girlfriend. You were my pal. You were my soulmate. You were just I just really felt a connection with you. And I didn't get to spend a whole lot of time with you, as you may have been listening, the last time we were together, because I met Greg Prescott. Greg Prescott.
And it was fun to sort of have a bird's eye view of that meeting and how you were so at the time saying it wasn't happening, and I knew that it was happening, and so it was a lovely thing to get to watch and observe, and it's wonderful to see that the two of you have done so much in the time since, and that's just incredible.
It is. When I wrote an article that I'll talk about here in a little while about part of the declaration of my own sovereignty that I made back in, I think, about 2011, after I'd started waking up. And I told Source, I told Universe, I told everybody that was listening and watching out, in the cosmos, that if I know who I am now, and if I'm here, if I'm going to do my job here, I need doors to open, and I need people to be put into my path, and to run into the people that I need to work with. And boy, howdy, things just started, my whole life just turned upside down, and I just followed my own instincts. And I ended up there at that conference. And the funny thing is I went to the conference only because I had left dumbfounded when we had seen Andrew Bartzis in Mount Shasta. And I wrote a little bit about this in my article, it's called The Declaration of Sovereignty and Contract Revocation, and you can find that on howtoexitthematrix.com. But you had a reading with Andrew. A lot of people had a reading with Andrew, and I couldn't seem to get him to sign me up for a reading, and I was getting...
No, I didn't actually have a reading with Andrew, not at Mount Shasta.
You didn't?
No.
A lot of people did, and he actually did some readings in front of other people, and the information that he brought through was just amazing, and I just could not wait to find out what I was here on this planet to do. And I thought Andrew was going to give me that, another expectation. When you have expectations, you just set yourself up for disappointment. But it was the third day, and it was he told me to come out to where they were filming some of the the films that they did with Lance, and it was like 10 o'clock at night, and I finally sat down in front of him, my reading, and I don't know if he was just cranky, I don't know if he was tired, I don't know what the deal was, but he was not very pleasant with me, and he just basically said, what are you here for? And I said, well, I'm here to get my reading. I was very intimidated, and he said, well, all of your records are redacted. They've got black lines all through them. I can read them, but I'm not supposed to tell you anything. I'm like, really? I was so disappointed. So anyway, long story short, that's really this man was just like, who is this Andrew Bartzis? Who is this galactic historian? And I wrote in my article, he's been through a lot of changes over the last couple of years since then, but the foundation for what he did for me and for you is he taught us how to declare our sovereignty, and he taught us how to revoke contracts. And that's what we're going to be talking a little bit about today, and we'll be talking about a lot more about what's going on in the times that we're in right now. So Andrew's information, the foundation, can be found. There's some links on that article. There's also, I think I talked, Mary Jane Banks. You did your own sovereignty declaration, and I listed it on that article. And I didn't know if you wanted me to read that, or if you have it in front of you, if you even wanted to cover that.
I kept a copy, but would it be okay if I just gave a little couple of points of background, because I've never really had a chance to reiterate my intention in doing that. And since you bring up Andrew, I would want to say my attraction to Andrew really stemmed from his original radio programs where he did readings with people over the radio, and his intention in his heart in those shows was very powerful, and that's what attracted me. Mm-hmm. I think at Mount Shasta, just to be clear, there was so much going on between the nighttime taping and the daytime workshop, supposedly, and all the readings. As somebody who has an organizational background, it was I had to restrain myself from wanting to jump in and try and sort of put some order into things. But I think in some ways that's the way Andrew likes it. He likes to work on the fly like that, and for some of us that works to a point, and in some ways it doesn't work. And so I think what we had to do was just take what we could take from it and leave the rest. And obviously the point of Mount Shasta and then what ensued in Florida was bringing different people together
Mm-hmm.
in order to meet and create resonance and start the development of other kinds of networks. So just to sort of give a bit of background, I think there was a lot going on, and there's a lot still going on with Andrew, and I still think the core there was good. What worries me, and what I would like to talk about a little bit tonight, is people getting bogged down in detail that, from my point of view, as somebody who's been awake for over 20 years and searching all my life, I had a sort of a spontaneous psychic awakening just before my 33rd birthday, and I'm going to be 55 this year. So I kind of have a marathon perspective on this whole thing. And I have deliberately not been quick to talk because I wanted to have a really clear sense of what I wanted to say when I did say it. And so my concern at the moment, especially for people who are just coming to a lot of this information now, is that it can be incredibly chaotic and overwhelming and frightening, and I don't think that it needs to be. And I really hope that in our conversation tonight we can help that and frame it in a more positive light, in a bigger picture light, to help people focus and see what's important and what's not. So that's one thing. In terms of what I wrote that, I think it was May 2013, maybe April 2013. And it was really a response to Andrew Bartz's versions. And I will say I never actually called mine a soul revocation. Mine was not intended as an undoing, but purely as an affirmation of my sovereign birthright as a sovereign being. So what I actually wrote it with the intention of it being a sovereignty declaration. This is who I am. This is what I'm here for. This is what I'm open to. And the rest can just F off, basically. And sometimes I still I can't actually swear on the radio, but sometimes swearing can be quite helpful in raising up some energy. So my goal was really just to say, I'm not buying into any of that shenanigans. I'm not going down into the lower levels of the legality and the contracts and the, undoing this and undoing that. Because the more you do that, in my opinion, the more you're engaging on that level and the more you're tacitly saying that those contracts are in place, that they have validity, that I need to undo them. What I'm going to do is say that's crap as far as I'm concerned. I am a sovereign being connected way up high to all sorts of other consciousness on all sorts of other levels, and I am claiming my sovereignty. And I think that's what the message I want to give to people.
Well, Mary Jane, I had never heard you do that before. I was really completely asleep in 2010 and had my great awakening and very fast track awakening, and I had never thought about that before, and so I was very impressed and very taken aback by the fact that we needed to do that, or that you were even doing that. And so I just consider you a pioneer of putting that kind of information in a very concise, very simple, powerful way. And you do carry your power with you, and I think that demands a lot of respect. And I really appreciate you, doing that for everybody. You basically, and everyone needs to write their own, and you wrote your own based on what Andrew had, and everybody can take your template and just get ideas and change it, because it really has to come from your heart. Can you tell me how did you present that to the universe? Did you go outside? Did you just think it? And what is the proper way of presenting that declaration of your sovereignty?
I don't believe in all sorts of rules and regulations about how you need to do these things.
How did you?
I believe.
Well, write it?
To be honest with you, I didn't really write it for myself.
Okay.
Because in many senses, I didn't need it. But I could see that it was needed.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I've been on this path for a very long time, and if I seem like I have any power, it's because I have spent the time and I've claimed it, and I've claimed it vibrationally. You can't mentally or even emotionally. Ultimately, it is a vibrational knowing that needs to become integrated into you. And I didn't even really know that that's what I was doing. It just happened that after years and years of really, tough going, that's what happened. But I was lucky that because I did have this strong psychic awakening and a strong connection to what I perceive to be my higher self, or whatever you want to call it, your oversoul, the higher version of yourself. Just to digress a second, I use a lot of metaphors because I think it's a good way of communicating information easily and quickly. So to me, being incarnated on planet Earth is kind of like bungee jumping from high in the cosmos where we're all together and we know everything, down into the depths of illusion and darkness and confusion and not knowing. But what we've got to remember is we're always connected to that higher level, and we're not alone. And what I can't know in 3D, I can defer in a sense to the higher part of myself that does know. So in terms of writing this kind of thing, I do think it's important not to do it with your 3D mind, not to say I revoke this and that and I disallow this and that, but do it meaning I defer to the version of me that I knows, that I know is with me, that is guiding me, that I'm intuitively connected to, and that is putting things in my path to help my path unfold. You don't want to just from a 3D point throw everything out in the trash, is what I mean. So what I wrote was endeavouring to keep, the connections that I wanted to keep, but basically disallow, interference, anything that wasn't in alignment with who I am, what I'm here for, what I planned, and my purpose.
I had this article. This took me like 2 days to complete. Mary Jane, was I made my sovereignty declaration as it came out of me in the shower. I do a lot of my clearing in the shower. I receive a lot of information in the shower. And so when it comes to me, I just open my mouth and I just start declaring. I declare this, I declare this. I do not consent to this, I do not consent. But see, I couldn't remember all the things that I said. And I'm like, I got to write it down. I got to try to remember. But I did put a part of my declaration of my own sovereignty at the end of that article, along with yours in that article as well. But so I agree with you that it doesn't have to be pomp and circumstance. It doesn't have to be ritualistic, but it does serve to give a guideline to some people who, a lot of people starting out, they don't realize just how powerful the thought is. When they create the thought, it's energy and the intention, and when you speak it out loud, it does, in my opinion, it does magnify it and make, if anything, it makes you feel even more powerful. So, and I think that's one thing that Andrew Bartzis was letting people know is showing people how to speak it out loud, from your heart. And so
absolutely.
That's why
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, that's why I'd asked you that. So,
well, I mean, yes, of course, speaking out loud is great. I think what you said about doing it in the shower, doing it through pure inspiration, because you're actually, when you're doing that, you are connected on some level, and to say that kind of thing. And yes, I do think it is helpful to record it in writing or in some form so that you can recapture that when you need to. My goal in this version was also my goal in everything really is trying to help people see the bigger picture and not get splintered off into separate groups. And so I was trying to do something kind of holistic in a middle path kind of way that also covered everything. I don't want to have to sit down and do 5 or 6 or 7 different things that, to me
No.
that's hard work, and it just it doesn't feel right to me. The only other thing, I'm happy to read this if you think people want to hear it again if they haven't heard it. I mean, I don't know whether people are sick of it and they've heard it enough. Can people in the chat maybe say whether that what they think about that? But
yeah, if you guys in the chat room, if you haven't read Mary Jane Banks' Sovereignty Declaration, just let us know.
Whether people think that's helpful. But the other thing I just wanted to quickly say is I also think it is important to put some kind of parameters around it, because if you just start, for example, in mine, I put in that things happen expeditiously, but in the most conducive way possible, because we still have to live our lives. We still have to go to work or look after children and things like this. And so we need things to unfold at a pace in which we can function. And I think that's also a really important thing to consider.
Yes, and really what I want to do is to help people, this is a tool. This is a tool in helping us remember who we are as an aspect of Source, having an incarnation in this lifetime. And I think it would be good if you go ahead and read your declaration, just basically saying that that's who you are, and that I think that there's, personally, I feel like the universe or the system of control that's running the planet, that's or whoever, I think that until we stand in the power of who we are, we have not made the commitment that we need to make to move forward in this lifetime. So I think it's really important that we have the tools to do that. So if you wouldn't mind reading it, I would love to hear it in your own words.
I'm very happy to read it, and I totally agree with what you just said, because in my opinion, any control agenda, the only power they have is the power we give through our insecurity, through our fear, through all of those things. And so the core of shifting this planet is knowing you are a sovereign being. And if this helps you get to recognize that, then all the better. And that really was my intention. So I'm just going to clear my throat.
Oh, let me pop some popcorn here. Hold on. We'll pop some popcorn and kick back. Okay, I'm all ready. I'm ready.
All right. Excuse me. I call on my higher self to merge with me, guide me, and assist me in declaring, embodying, and enacting 100% sovereignty of my being in this and every now moment, in alignment with my I am presence and in accordance with my chosen purpose, goals, and intentions for this lifetime. I call upon the elemental, angelic, ascended, cosmic, and ancestral realms to witness my declaration, to assist in upholding the integrity of its intention, and to co-create with me in manifesting my highest potentials personally, in unity with the One, and to graduate to the next level of our evolution. In declaring my full sovereignty and with the guidance of my higher self and I am presence, I assert autonomy over my physical and non-physical embodiment, my energetic vibration, and all resulting emanations. I disallow any interference to distort or delay the fulfillment of my purpose in this lifetime, whether that interference be well-meaning, misguided, self-interested, or malevolent. This includes any and all overt and covert intentions, attempts, and actions to limit, separate, distract, manipulate, disempower, traumatize, dominate, control, or harvest any aspect or increment of my energy and consciousness. I reject and eject any such interference, demanding that it cease and desist immediately and retroactively, including any trickery designed to countermand, usurp, or sidestep the intention of this declaration. In making this declaration, I acknowledge and accept full responsibility for my being and actions. I continue to fervently request overt guidance and assistance from my higher self and I am present, which I in no way consider to be interference. I also commit to both hearing and enacting that guidance, and in turn to listening to and guiding the elemental consciousness that contributes to my personal collective consciousness this lifetime. To the extent that I might be unable or unwilling to hear and enact the guidance of my higher self or I am present, I request that the guidance continue to be given in various ways such that I can understand and act upon it, and until I am able to understand and act upon it. In full sovereignty, I also request and accept additional energetic existence of my guides, my soul star, human and ancestral families, the elemental, angelic, ascendant and cosmic realms, and any other sources, provided that it accords with this declaration, is in my highest good, is in the highest good of the earth, and in accordance with my purpose, goals and intentions for this lifetime. I choose to heal all fear, trauma and limitations standing in the way of my fulfilling my highest potential and purpose this lifetime. I ask that my higher self and I am presence in co-creation with the elemental, angelic, ascended, cosmic and ancestral realms assist me in healing, transmuting and transcending all fear, limitation, separation and amnesia, preventing me from embodying my full, integrated, sacred masculine and sacred feminine power, love and wisdom. I ask that my higher self and I am present direct my healing such that I embody and offer the optimal vibration in any circumstance, that I manifest optimal health and wholeness in and through my physical, emotional, mental and etheric bodies, that I fluidly evolve according to my path and purpose, that I awaken to and regain all the memories and gifts in my causal body, that I function with energy, clarity, balance, effectiveness and efficiency in the changing energetics of Earth, that I integrate the healing, its lessons, its energy in the most beneficial way possible, and that all this unfolds at the most conducive yet expeditious pace possible. I intend that in healing myself in this now moment, I heal other aspects of myself across time and space, as well as splintered aspects of other consciousness trapped in time, who, through the domino effect, will gain the freedom to return to where they belong, to heal, and to contribute to the unity we seek to co-create in order to graduate from this plane and take our next evolutionary steps. I offer healing, compassion, and forgiveness wherever it is needed or wanted to free all aspects of consciousness, including my own, to allow all to return to its natural order in wholeness and unity. And so it is.
It's very powerful, and it covers, it covers everything, including, if you think about it, it's just a higher level of covering the contracts that we made before we came into this particular lifetime, because some of them were made under duress. Some of them were made under the false pretenses of using the law of karma against us. And, I know you don't like to get into these little details because they really don't matter, because once we raise our
I don't mind talking about them. It's about not getting bogged down in them, but there's no harm in talking about them.
Okay, good. You were talking about splintered aspects of of other consciousness that's trapped in time. Tell the audience members how you see what is actually happening on the earth. What actually have we incarnated into? I mean, you and I both know that we volunteered to come here. And, we weren't one of the trapped ones, or if we were, we were trapped, however many thousand lifetimes ago, because we agreed to come and get trapped because we knew that we were going to, in this lifetime, we were going to free ourselves and to help free the rest of humanity. But how do you see this trap that we're in? How did it get created, and who created it, and how do you feel we're going to be moving out of it? That.
Yes, all right. I'm very grateful for an opportunity to give my perspective, which is a little bit different, I think. And in order to do that, I'm going to go big picture for a minute, because I think you can't really understand the detail unless you have some context. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of my gift in endeavoring to give the context. So the other thing is, if we're trying to create unity and we're trying to get out of all of this separation of right, wrong, us, them, etc., we need to have some kind of unifying principle with which we can do that. So, if we look at everything from the perspective of consciousness, as far as I'm concerned, the fundamental unit of reality is consciousness. And I don't think anybody's going to disagree with me with that in this kind of audience. And so as consciousness, the point is to express and expand and experience. And then that informs the collective, and then we do it again. So it's not an accident that the metaphor of water or the ocean of consciousness resonates so strongly, because it's like we are an ocean of consciousness, but as we experience and express and expand consciousness, we diversify. Whether to continue the metaphor of water, whether it's a river or a stream or a swamp or rain or snow or mud or blood or steam, we go off into these interesting journeys of separation. But we're always meant to, go home with the photos and the story and tell the family what we did and what we learned and share. And so in that sense, the macrocosm is the same as the microcosm. And so are you familiar with the concept of the out-breath and in-breath of Brahma, the Hindu idea?
Yes.
So
we've turned the corner now to the in-breath.
Yes, but if you, just to be clear for anybody who doesn't know that concept, it's the idea that the ocean starts off being singular oneness, and then incrementally it chooses to separate and devolve down through the dimensions. So to me, a good metaphor for that is like Russian dolls being unnested and re-nested. Mm-hmm. So in terms of, you think of aggregation of consciousness, you've got total aggregation at the source level, and then consciousness splits, and in the same way that a baby is conceived and then gestated, with cells splitting and then diversifying and then basically becoming a baby. It's that kind of idea where consciousness, if you think of one big holistic circle, then splitting off into ever smaller little circles or cells or atoms or quanta, and spreading out further and further, ultimately into physicality, and ultimately all the way down, through the dimensions. Mm-hmm. You end up with the most extreme version of separation possible. Mm-hmm.
And that would be the out breath, all the way out to as far away from the original as possible, and then the in-breath is actually moving back in towards that oneness again, that wholeness. Oh, I think I may have lost you. Oh, yes. Okay, well, we're going to try to get Mary Jane back on the line.
After quite a long time of them tweeting, the blossoms start budding and opening on the trees. And after that happens, then the leaves start budding. So meaning everything has these natural cycles where certain things trigger and time certain other things. And so a lot of the idea of the Mayan calendar is that idea of the in-breath coming back. So not the end of time, but the shift in time, and the start of the return, or whatever you want to call it. So the thing is, though, one of the dangers of going out into separation is you get separated. Well, as far as I'm concerned, the consciousness that's stuck in the control agenda is separated, that it's forgotten who it is, and it doesn't want to take the return journey. It's like a tantruming child saying, we're having too much fun here, we don't want to go back, and we don't want to answer to anybody else, etc. I suspect, and I don't want to say anything too categorically about this, I think there's also inorganic consciousness soul consciousness. And that may have something to do with it as well in terms of sort of the technological inorganic side versus the organic side. But what I wanted to say is I think people are, at this point, there's a risk that people are taking the idea of the matrix out of context, in the sense that the word matrix is the same root word as matriarchal, matrimony, and mother. It's really just an idea of a pattern or grid on which something else is created. So a matrix is, in some senses, it's a very female thing. And the Earth and the cosmos has its own organic matrix. Now, the inorganic matrix that we know of as the control matrix is really just a parasite growing on the organic matrix. And so it has no, it has no equality, you can't equate the two things, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
That this parasite that's growing on creation has all this power is just not true. That's where the illusion comes in, where the hologram comes in, or the idea of the holodeck comes in. If you think of most people know the Star Trek idea of the holodeck on.
Yes.
Well, in the holodeck, yes, it seems to be huge and it seems to be all powerful and you can experience anything, but you have to remember you're in a holodeck, and the holodeck can only exist as a subset of the spaceship. So I heard you recently trying to keep the Earth stuck in a limited bandwidth of consciousness. It's because the parasite can't exist without the host.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, and why they need to keep us dumbed down. Really, they're trying to keep us in the 3D mental realm and in the sort of lower astral realm, because that's where you can create this illusion through the mind. If you think of, we've really over time been cut off from our instinctive consciousness. Now, what I want to say, a lot of people think in terms of raising their consciousness up, but it's expanding the bandwidth of your consciousness to be able to experience everything. That's what you're meant to be able to experience. But if with pollution and chemtrails and bad food and genetically modified, we don't have to detail it. We all know. Obviously, that affects your physical vehicle. Similarly, urban life and digital media, digital watches, we're losing the sense of the cycles of time. We don't get to see the stars moving in the sky. We don't get as much to have our feet on the earth and have the earth entrain us into her natural rhythms. And so because of that, because your instinctive, talking about intuition and psychic ability and all that sort of thing, and discernment, your instance, your body consciousness is a huge aspect in terms of discerning what's garbage and what's truth, whether it be because the hairs on your arms raise, or you feel chills running through you, or you feel sick in the stomach, or you say you like the sound of my voice. Well, that's a resonance that's harmonic. Some people, you'll listen to them and just the sound of their voice, you really almost can't listen to it, and that's different for everybody. That's where there's no kind of, it's all, you've got to find what resonates with you, and of course it changes as you change. Of course, on an emotional level, there's been the male and female relationships have been targeted. The female nurturing abilities being targeted, whether it's in the masculine form or the feminine form. I'm not, of course, talking about men and women. I'm talking about archetypes of masculine and feminine. The feminine has been grossly distorted, suppressed on one level for eons, distorted, and similarly in more recent times, since the 1960s, they sort of flipped the script to make the women more of the aggressive out of control ones and to disempower men. So, and certainly keeping problems between male and female relationships is also a way of cutting out our creativity, cutting out our connection with the cosmos and with the creative energy, the creative force of life. So if you cut, I hope, are you following me in terms of, we're cut off from that instinctive body consciousness that would connect you to the earth and give you a sense of what's true and what's not, and when to act and when not to act, all of that sort of natural cycle type of stuff, and that the earthly femininity as well. Mm-hmm. And then from our creative sense, our emotional sense, which would also, in a feeling sense, give us more indication of what the truth is. We're being cut intuitively from our higher knowing, certainly that, and so the bandwidth that we exist in is very narrow. And of course, if you watch a lot of TV, if that's the whole belief system thing, and that goes very deep within each of us, and that's where the ancestral part to me comes in, because obviously the DNA has a lot of belief systems, a lot of trauma built into it. A lot of, the false flag trauma is to keep us running a fear vibration. And the other thing that is perpetrated against us is this constant split into duality, into male, female, old, young, us, them, good, bad. Even a lot of the discussion among the truth movement is, the matrix one end and the false light on one end and us on the other. Well, in many senses, what we're trying to do is get to the middle point, to integrate to the middle, where we split in negativity or into a dark agenda or a service to self-agenda, it's often called. But you equally can't really be split off into this kind of love and light agenda. You're in denial of the shadow side. It's like we have to integrate into wholeness. But the good news, as far as I'm concerned, is those natural cycles. The birds are tweeting. We, in a way, are the birds tweeting to call everything back into alignment and have it start enfolding back. But what's interesting is we're doing it in a way that's very unusual, in that, the Earth could very easily just ascend back, throw us off, throw everything human-made off the planet, and it would be done. And we would be fine because our physical body would be lost, but our consciousness would not. The ironic thing is, a lot of the reason we're here is to save the consciousness that's lost in separation, because it's the separated consciousness that is in danger of being obliterated and being recycled in the great central sun, as they say. Mm-hmm. Because if you can't return to wholeness, then it's kind of like you're lost in time.
Right.
So let me just think how to.
Well, that was a really detailed answer, to the question about the aspects of ourselves. Perhaps we were in another lifetime and we were immediately killed. And when your subconscious or RAM self knows, it's in the now moment, really. It's in the now, but it knows you're about to get killed. And some of it actually splinters off or jumps out of your body and kind of gets lost in time. And
exactly.
One of the things that I've worked on is actually calling in all those aspects or shards or splinters of my energy from my soul, from all of the other lifetimes that exist in the past or the future, and calling them into myself now to heal them here in this body. Because these bodies actually are mega healing machines. They're actually limiting, as it's a duality, they're actually limiting as well as allowing us to heal through being able to use the body and its senses and the emotional body as a clearing house. So, I know the
Yes.
last year you've spent a lot of time working on yourself, and a lot of times, we have to quarantine ourselves and really just keep our vibration high and not let external things interfere in our lives, so we can focus on the healing and clearing that needs to take place. Whether we really know exactly how far or how big that is doesn't matter. We just know that if we need rest, we need to go to sleep. If we don't feel sleepy, then don't sleep. Connecting with your higher self, asking, calling back those pieces and parts of our energy that were lost is actually what we came here to do in this lifetime. And to even remember that is a phenomenal thing.
Yes, I agree with you. And that is also where the empowerment is. Because if you know that you have the power in the now moment, in the I am, and also if, to me, the point is to expand the bandwidth of your consciousness, and it's in doing that you retrieve these lost pieces. Because it can be as simple as in childhood, something traumatic happened. Well, basically, that consciousness gets frozen in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's the trauma. There's the energy that's stuck.
Yes.
It's just frozen.
It's like the way Manchurian candidates are deliberately created and people are deliberately made into split personalities through trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a natural process of what happens. But as you empower yourself, as you know that you get to choose, as you know that you've come here for a purpose, that you're not a victim, that you've come here basically to retrieve consciousness, and in doing that to free consciousness. Andrew used to talk about the fur ball idea. I've been given the concept intuitively of reweaving the fabric of time, because in order for us to be cut off in the matrix, to be the host consciousness for the control separated consciousness, we have to be cut off from much of our consciousness, as I was saying, in terms of the different dimensional levels and also the parallel levels. And so we resolve the duality within us. As we raise up and recognize I'm not a victim, as we recognize we don't equally want to be a perpetrator, we actually want to be a whole being on every level, left brain, right brain, masculine side, feminine side, subconscious, unconscious, superconscious. We don't, I have a problem also with this idea of kind of obliterating the ego. The ego is part of that body consciousness that we need in order to live in a physical life. It's also the inner child in a lot of ways, that part of us that has been, hurt and wounded. And we can reparent ourselves. We can kind of entrain that part of our consciousness back into us, and basically, rather than it being again like an out of control child without a parent knowing what to do, if we kind of be the powerful consciousness to bring that into alignment in its proper place, then things start, in my opinion, to fall into place, and then you tap into your intuition. You start having a sense of the elemental consciousness. You can start communicating with the planet, with plants, with minerals, even with animals. Because we're all meant to be able to communicate. And when I say that, obviously, when you're communicating with a crystal, it's a different kind of communication than when you're communicating with a dog or with a human being. But it is communication, and it is communing, and it's through that you open up the pathways to all of those other experiences. And whether that's, we call it past lives, even though technically they're not past, but that's where those parts of consciousness in some ways return to us, not necessarily in whole streams of lives, but in the important aspects of those lives, of what we learned and what we experienced, and the ability to heal, and by connecting up vertically to our higher consciousness, we connect into remembering why we're here and what we're doing, and we become whole, because it's really the only real way to escape the matrix or exit the matrix, or what I would say is transcend the matrix, is you evolve out of it, but you can't take a bit of yourself and leave the rest behind. It's like the idea of, let thine eye be single in a Christian sense, or in the Egyptian sense of Ma'at weighing your heart on a scale with a feather, or the idea of how a camel goes through the eye of a needle. It's because your consciousness can go through that singular point if it's singular. Whereas if you're in us and them, and they're the control agenda doing this, and my God, that we've got to get rid of them. That all serves the artificial agenda, the inorganic agenda, because it keeps us split, it keeps us angry, it keeps us disempowered, and the way to connect up to who we really are, and to remember the breadth and depth and expanse of who we really are, is to be whole. And so that's the ultimate goal, in my opinion.
Well, these aspects of Source that are lost, and they're actually have created this false overlay, this matrix, this false light matrix is what I call it, the overlay on top of organic creation.
Yes.
Now, you were talking about the in-breath of Brahma, and how, we know that we're moving back the way that we came, basically. But is there like a shortcut to these beings that don't want to go back the way that we came? Are they going to just how, in your opinion, are we going to dissolve their little playground that they have and be able to actually experience this organization matrix that the Earth has? And where are they? I mean, obviously they're going to be recycled back to creation very quickly, rather than choosing to go back the experienced way, to experience going back.
Understood. I would love to address that question, and I've just got to gather my thoughts. On one level, I think, just to reiterate, I've kind of already said this, but I really feel I need to reiterate it. One way is for us to keep them in context, meaning where the organic creation, that is just, like I said, I think the best metaphor is it's just a parasite. So number one, you've got to stop feeding the parasite. Really, it's as simple as that, and removing your energy from it. But I will say more clearly, I do not believe, my knowing is that probably the vast majority of anybody who at this moment or at some future moment is going to be listening to this radio show is not somebody that's stuck in the incarnation grid, that's been manipulated to be here. I believe we chose to come knowing that it was the time, it was a transition time. And because the goal is to retrieve as much consciousness as possible, meaning the consciousness that does have to get recycled into the great central sun, that then is obliterated. It isn't recorded, and we don't get the benefit of the learning from that. And so of course, creation is always going to want to retrieve as much knowing, especially since what we've learned in this particular, if you want to call it a game, if you want to call it an experiment, whatever, that what we've learned is extremely important to record, so it doesn't happen again, kind of idea. So sorry, I've just lost my train of thought.
Well, so how do you see us contributing to dissolving this this playground of theirs, and how are they going to take the fast track? I mean, is the Earth are we going to basically receive a blast of energy from the great central sun that will do, what that has been termed, ascension, to where we're basically going to move into a new reality, or is this still just a gradual thing that we are creating, making it happen?
Understood. I was given a metaphor a long time ago. But let me just digress for a second. I think music is a really good metaphor for what's happening, and in the sense that with each of our vibrations, we're trying to refine and play a harmonic note and then join up with each other to resonate that same harmonic and to basically play a vibration that's in sync with the planet and with the cosmos. And so in my opinion, it's much more important to work on your own vibration, the clarity of your own vibration and the strength of your own vibration, because the amount of energy that you can run in your physical vehicle is really dependent on the amount of limitation, the amount of discord, the amount of, physical health as well, all of those things. But as you empower yourself through your own knowing, through building your connections down through the dimensions with your body, by being able to communicate intuitively with your body and know what your body wants and needs, to be able to not kind of be harsh in terms of your ego, that kind of idea, to be able to get guidance from all the different ways that you can. You refine and strengthen and build your vibration, and then as we are connecting, we literally are acting like a tuning fork. And most people listening to this radio show will understand the concept of entrainment, where it's much easier to entrain consciousness into alignment, into resonance, than it is to force it. You can't actually force it. That's never going to work. I often think of the Aesop's fable of the wind and the sun having the competition to make the human being take his raincoat off. And if the sun wins by just shining the warmth on the person, and the person willingly takes his coat off. So that's one metaphor for it. The other metaphor is the idea of, like I was talking about before, spring unfolding. I think it's a mistake to get panicky that more people need to be awake now. That's not the way it's meant to happen. It's meant to happen in a phased way in order for it to be not chaotic, not cataclysmic, not all of those things that were foretold eons ago. We as consciousness have come here, and I'll give you another metaphor. We have come here on one level to be scaffolding for the earth during this time, and then to act like a winch, to winch the consciousness incrementally up. Now, I'm sorry I'm mixing so many metaphors in, but I'm hoping through all of this people will get a better sense through their own knowing of what I'm trying to say. If you think of a frog, being put in a pot of cold water and being heated up slowly, that's in a negative sense when you're wanting to cook a frog. But if you're wanting to entrain separated consciousness back into wholeness, it's I'm seeing dominoes. I'm seeing, it's like a stairway, this incremental stairway that we're all on, and we're just gently taking steps. So there are a lot of people in their 60s and 70s now who did a lot of work in those times, even in terms of that initial 1960s, freedom revolution. A lot of people, now are condemning feminism, not realizing that feminism did a huge service at the time. Yes, it was overtaken by the control agenda and distorted, but in its inception, it was very powerful and a very important step in where we are now. And so we have come so far, and the good news, in my opinion, is that we really are at the tipping point where so many of us now are awake in a holistic and in a constructive way. And the more that we can connect energetically, as we are tonight through the internet, and having the internet has been a key factor in doing this, but the internet itself is really only a metaphor for what we're doing energetically, what we're going to be doing telepathically, what we're going to be doing, what's going to be unfolding. And we're at the brink of the fun part, because the fun part is getting to be our best selves, getting to remember who we are, getting to retrieve all the fun skills we have and start playing with them. I have sat with a concept for quite a long time now of a decloaking. People are very concerned about, first contact and ETs coming. And I keep saying we're kind of the ETs that are going to decloak in many senses, because in a lot of our junk DNA, in my opinion, and not just my opinion, is where we've got the reptilian DNA. We know that's active. We've got the mammalian DNA. We know that's active. We've got human DNA. But we're now, what we're doing is activating higher levels dimensionally of other DNA, meaning to join up with the next levels of aggregation of our consciousness, in order that we basically are taking back the planet. Gaia is waking up. There's no doubt about it. The organic grid we're infusing that organic grid with energy, and it is absolutely going to break free of the parasite, and the parasite is atrophying. It's happening.
It is
happening. Absolutely happening.
Yes.
And there is evidence of it. And sorry.
No, go ahead and finish. I have another question when we get
Well,
past
what I'm saying is, often people think things are getting worse because you know about it. Knowing about something doesn't make it worse. Knowing about it means it's rising up to be healed and to be cleared. And the more you clear in yourself, the more you can be whole and not fearful and connect to sort of the picture. And the more we can connect in the way we are now, the more we're then resonating a stronger vibration, a more powerful vibration, and it's going to get deeper, and we're going to have different octaves of it, and it's going to get to a point, that tipping point, where then it's just a foregone conclusion of resonating out and out and out and out, and as it does, just like springtime, the trees are going to bloom, the flowers are going to bloom, and it is going to change. Now, that might sound too positive for some people, but I believe that it's the truth.
I believe it's the truth as well. And, like you said, there has been different levels of awakening, and those back in the 60s and even back in the 40s have set the stage for birthing us. I understand you're about the same age bracket as Greg. And we always give our thanks to those who came before us, and most of some of them have already left the planet, but they set the stage, and it has been slowly unfolding. But I do feel a quickening in it. I do feel an urgency. I feel that because we've made it that we've decided that how much longer can we be on this planet in physicality and experience the suffering around us from those who haven't awoken from the spell, from the false information being programmed to them. And so to those, there are different levels of awakening. To the people who are listening to the show tonight that just now began, their awakening process, what kind of, besides declaring your sovereignty, believing that what we're saying is true. I mean, the imagination is very powerful. Thoughts are energy. We're creating this in our minds because our minds were hijacked in the first place, and we're basically taking that back. But what would you say to these people who are just awakening and struggling and not quite there, declaring their sovereignty and being lost third dimensional struggle, either way? If you're sick, I mean, how hard is it to raise your vibration if you're constantly sick? It's very hard. And sometimes you need to go to a professional energy healer to take care of those if you're not able to work on yourself to get over a certain hump. But what kind of advice would you give to people who are just now awakening as far as being overwhelmed with, let's just say, maybe some new age information, or even those who are still watching the news, watching the television to see what's happening around the planet?
Yes, I do feel for people who are waking up into the sort of information that is available now. I guess I would recommend, like I said before, not getting bogged down in the detail. I think for everybody, whether you're newly awakened or not, it's about endeavoring to stay balanced. Again, I sort of said everything is consciousness, and consciousness also manifests as energy. And so you've kind of got to start monitoring your energy and see where you're being triggered, where you're being put out of balance, and to the best of your ability, just begin intending and working on staying balanced. But the truth is, you're not going to be. A lot of the healing process means going out of balance and then coming back into balance. And that's okay. That's part of the process. But it's really about, I think, recognizing that this isn't some awful disaster movie that we're stuck in. That there is a bigger picture and a higher order. And what I was going to say before is, yes, things are shifting now because our consciousness is shifting it, but on a fundamental level, it's because it's the cycle of time and it's for it to happen. So, the earth can't really be held back any longer. It's going to happen. And the reason that we're here and that so many of us have volunteered to be here is to really be the conduits or the transducers of energy, the energy from the central sun that basically gets channeled, spiraling down through the cosmos, through our sun, through our planets. That we're transducing that into the planet and sort of stepping it down for other people to be able to access. So, in many senses, people like us that are a little bit further along the track, our role is really to help hold that resonance, to be the tuning forks to pull other people into resonance. So sometimes the best thing you can do is anything that makes you feel good and balanced, whether that's needing to take a nap to reboot yourself, whether it's having a bath to feel cleansed, whether it's going for a run if you're that sort of person, whether, it's listening to music to shift your vibration, whether it's really surrendering in a moment to feeling lousy, real feeling. There's nothing wrong with real feeling. It actually isn't going to kill you. We're sort of taught, again, this is kind of a false matrix tricks on us, that, you shouldn't feel feelings are painful. What's painful is the effort that it takes to suppress feelings and to hold them down and to not feel them. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just to surrender and sort of go into that void of, I don't know, this is scary, but I'm going to surrender, sort of knowing that there is a bigger picture. Now, if you really don't think there is a bigger picture, then that's a little bit tougher. But if you don't think there's a big picture, then it doesn't really matter. You're going to die and you'll be dead, Mm-hmm. So there's meaning, I don't think we all have to agree on being awake and on knowing the truth. There are plenty of harmonically resonant people on this planet who are totally asleep, but they're incredibly heart-centered. Mm-hmm. And so there's more than one road back to Rome. And I think for people, if you can reach out, I do think empowering yourself again is fundamental. Because if you feel like a victim, or if you feel that there's no hope, then that's what you're creating. But my hope is that I really feel that we're on the brink, because so many of us are at this point of, as you said somewhere recently, I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore, which is a line by Peter Finch, who was a very powerful, not Peter, is it Peter Finch? Yes, it's Peter Finch. I'm right, I think.
I can't remember his name, but it was from the movie.
He was an Australian actor anyway, and that movie even was so ahead of its time, incredibly ahead of its time. And even just going, if you've just newly woken up, go and watch that movie. Go and watch a lot of those kinds of movies, because the ones that are more empowering, I suppose. There's so much empowering information out there now. Is it you that had a connection with Matt Kahn? Or was that somebody else?
Well, Helene Lipson is on N5D Radio, and she interviewed Matt Kahn.
Well, some of his, I'm only singling him out because he's a younger person who's really kind of on the ball for today, I think, and listening to some of his YouTube videos, there are other people out there. I think it's a matter of reaching out, but also just recognizing that it's an unfolding process, and when you are, just that little, for example, using another metaphor, if you're that little sprout that's budded through the earth and you're vulnerable, you're going to be vulnerable for a period of time until you gain strength and you remember how to discern and judge things and choose for yourself. But I think we're going to really all be helping each other through this process more and more and more, and it's going to be exponential. Like a family tree, because it's just going to spread out, and the energy is going to spread out, and it is going to create a tipping point.
I would like to remind our listeners that if you'd like to call in and comment about this, or if you have any questions about anything we've talked about, the telephone number to call is area code 646-716-8890. And now would be a good time to get in the queue. You just press 1 to let me know that you have a question. And we don't have any questions so far in the chat room. I wanted to talk a little bit about guidance, because, you've been on this path for a really long time. You've been very, very patient. More patience than I do. I'm really glad I didn't wake up until 2010. Because I just want to get this over with and to take everybody out of suffering and, to make it all be so. I want it to be so in my reality right now. And I do say that every day, when I wake up. It's in my reality right now that we're no longer under this illusion, and we're actually going to be able to experience this organic creation, the beauty of how life was supposed to be before it was jacked with, so to speak. But
yes.
Yeah, so I kind of lost my train of thought of where I was going with that. Let's see.
You mentioned guidance.
Oh yes, I wrote an article called Spiritual Guidance for Light Workers, Starseeds, and Leaders that we just published today on n5d.com. And the reason I wrote that article is because when I made my sovereignty declaration, oftentimes as I reached pinnacle of my life where I had huge changes, 180 degree, divorce, moving several times a year, all of these upheaval things that were kind of making all the wheel cogs click into place so that I could be in the powerful position that I am now in speaking to people and bringing people together, so we can talk about these things and understand what's happening. My was one of my guides, and one day she had to up and leave, And I was like, why? Why do you have to go? And, basically people reach different levels, and even our guides learn from us sometimes when we start surpassing our guidance. And so I wrote an article about how we have the power to, we do have guides, I mean, we do have energies, we do have people on that have passed before us, we've lived lives on other planets, we have family on other planets, we have higher aspects of ourselves, that meaning those other lives that we've had that have woken up and in whatever reality they're in, and have learned how to, well, let's just say on other planets even that aren't under some kind of control like we are here, you can take your consciousness and you can travel to other lifetimes that are happening at the same time anytime you want. You can go experience any one of those. You can go experience a planet. You can go through the Stargate, through the star, through the sun. You can go, anywhere in the galaxy you want with consciousness. So basically we could have spirit guides that are actually us, a part of our soul.
Absolutely.
So sometimes you might want to actually sit down and have a little talk with your guidance and with Source and with the universe and say, look, I need the best guidance I can get right now. If I made any agreements with some guides that are lazy or aren't quite doing their job here to help me hold my highest vibration, then I'd like to replace them right now. And so I think guidance is an important part of keeping you on the highest path. We can be on many paths in this lifetime, and once we realize that we're here to make a difference, I don't know who wouldn't want to choose the very highest path and be of the highest service. And I can say that because I dedicate my life to what I'm doing. And so what do you feel about spirit guides and guidance and basically what I was saying in the article is that we can ask for review of our guides and make sure that all of our guides that we agreed to have.
Are you still there?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Can everybody else in the chat room hear me? I don't know what's happened. I'm here. Mary Jane, can you hear me? I think I will need to call her back.
I'm here.
Okay.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what
good.
happened then.
Okay, yeah, I think you kind of fell off there for a minute. But anyway, give our listeners a little idea about guidance.
Well, let me start. Sometimes it's hard. There's so many directions that I could go in. It's sometimes my brain, does a hiccup. One thing I have noticed, I will say, is that there tends to be a phenomenon of people sort of being absolutist about things. I've noticed, for example, in articles and in some radio shows, that channeling is dangerous. You can't have channeling, but if it's a download, direct download, that's okay. Or remote viewing has a blah blah methodology, therefore that's got greater credence than clairvoyance or something. And I find that really quite bizarre. To me, it's like saying, well, a cell phone is dangerous, but you can speak on a landline, or you can speak on Skype, but FaceTime or whatever is no good, or a flash drive is better. The method isn't the point. The person getting the information is the point, and the information itself is the point. And so learning discernment, getting in touch with your body consciousness to be able to get a sense of, is this true, is it not? Whether it's your own guidance or whether it's information you're getting somewhere else, that's key. It's like there isn't a junk email box for psychic stuff to just, get rid of the stuff that's no good. You've actually got to hone the skill of intuiting what, from your perspective, at where you are at any given point, feels right. And I think the other thing is you can't jump steps. meaning when you first wake up, you do have to go through that sense of maybe anger or mourning or confusion. And if you skip that, it's not really to your highest good. Meaning, again, recognizing that things happen in cycles, in layers, and that you heal in layers, and that you learn in layers and you integrate in layers. Now, that's not entirely answering your question, so I will try and answer your question. I think the thing with any guidance is discernment and the ability to basically disconnect, communication at any point where you're not comfortable. And that's another reason why having power is important, to be able to say, sorry, I don't like the energy, doesn't feel right. You can ask who it is, and if you're not comfortable, just say, sorry, I'm shutting my door, I'm hanging up, I'm not interested. I think sometimes mental curiosity can lead people to continue down a path that again, their inner knowing or their higher knowing or their body knowing should tell them this isn't a path I want to go down. It's kind of like if you, you open your front door to a stranger, you're not going to let them into your house and let them wander around. You're going to say, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. I don't really want to have anything to do with you. And I think you need to be empowered in terms of your own guidance to say, well, hang on, this just feels like white noise, blah, blah, blah. And it's not helping me. So, and that doesn't mean, okay, that means I'm never going to do that again. It just means that, I'm going to move at the pace that I'm comfortable with, and not go. I mean, the idea of people wanting to go off astral traveling, to me, it's like, why would you want to do that when the odds are it's not going to be good? I think, again,
I wrote an article called "Why Astral Travel" on N5D. Just at that, a lot of people are curious to see what's out there in the fourth, I guess you call it fourth dimension or fourth density in the astral realms. Where ghosts hang out. Basically apparition souls who haven't decided whether they want to reincarnate or go somewhere else, or But why would you want to do that when you're here to be embodied in this body to raise your vibration, to hold this vibration as a tuning fork for everyone on the planet? Yeah,
exactly. And so I also think, again, it's important if what you're trying to do, or I think one of the goals should be expanding your own vibration, and it's not, your own consciousness through your vibration. It's not something that you can do quickly. And again, it happens there'll be a growth spurt and then an integration, and it might almost feel like you're going backwards while you're integrating something or clearing something. And it's, over time you get to recognize, certain, emotional stuff happening in your body that sort of feels like it's just percolating under the surface. And it can feel pretty lousy, where you might want to, take a long shower or take a nap or take a walk or take it easy if you can. And then suddenly that will clear and something new will happen. But I think it's a matter of being willing to go with the flow. And also, talking about your grandmother, sometimes I think we can, anything can become a crutch. And I'm not saying this is the case with you and your grandmother, but sometimes it's like when we're ready to have the training wheels taken off, they're taken off. And so it may have been that your grandmother had to step back, because at that point you needed to go with practice using your own guidance rather than being told. And it's like a bit of a noblesse oblige idea. The more you know, the more you expand, the more responsibility there is. And I also would suggest that sometimes being the tortoise, you'll get there faster than being the hare, because you skip steps and then you've got to go backwards. And I think it's about, well, if I could give anybody advice after what it has been bloody long time as far as I'm concerned for me. And there are many times where I've wanted to give up, and where, you know, I've had the blinders on and confusion of what the hell is this about. And yet, when you go through cycles and cycles and cycles, and you're able to sort of look back with a bit of distance, you can kind of see that there was rhyme and reason. There was an ebb and flow. There, you know, sometimes, for example, things seem to stall and nothing's happening, but it's actually because you're pushing in a direction that isn't the path. And until you stop pushing and slow yourself down and sort of create a space for some other kind of intuition to come through, to be open to something else. You know, you're just like an Energizer bunny kind of bashing into the wall. You know what I mean?
And you know, if you're worried about making mistakes, you know, you really can't do anything wrong as long as you're not someone else. It's just a matter of how much you want to suffer if you don't slow down and pay attention to the patterns of the energies that are recurring, that are coming up into your awareness. Like if something keeps happening to you over and over again, and you make the comment, "Wow, that always happens to me." Well, why is that happening to you? You know, that's the part that just keeps coming up, and it's going to come up and be very patiently recurring until you see where that energy is. And it is all about energy. It's all about clearing the energy, transmuting the energy is a better way to put it, by raising it to a higher frequency of vibration. You know, everything is, and I know a lot of the listeners know this, but everything around us is energy vibrating at a certain speed, and the planet herself is waking up, and she's vibrating things on her organic body faster. And what's not actually connecting or gelling anymore is this overlay that's put on top of her, and it's kind of freaking out, and it's kind of chaotic and doing all these other things. And if you connect with that, then you're going to be chaotic and frantic. But once you start clearing any kind of stuck energy that you have, you're actually going to start purring and resonating with the planet as she's raising her vibration. So it is all about energy and vibration. And, you know, my guidance has really good, because sometimes when you realize that you can, since it is all energy, it is kind of like an illusion. You can actually change it, and you can reprogram it. You can ask. I have relied on my guidance too when I'm in a real tight spot in this, you know, in the real world. You know, you come down to a real tight spot where, you know, gosh, if I don't have any income next month, I can't continue to do what I'm doing here, to reach all these people, you know, to bring this radio show forth, to write articles, to do all this. You know, I can't worry about survival at its, you know, at its worst, not having money to buy food. And so I do rely on my guidance in that respect, and say, look, damn it, I'm here to do this, and I can't be worried about how I'm going to eat. So I need you to get to work and help me to find the right path to move down to where I need to go next. And magically things will unfold in your reality when you do that, to where you know, things will fall into place.
Absolutely. I've experienced the same thing. But I think that's where we're also laying templates for new patterns of things. And so when we are put into a sort of a 3D crisis mode, and we don't react energetically, consciously in the old way, where we transcend that trigger and use our power to step our way through it by asking for help, by taking responsibility, by not hiding, by doing the right thing, so to speak, by putting first things first. I think that's also about learning to live more in the present moment. Like, what do I need to do now? Not worrying about the past or the future, but pulling more of your energy, which is another way of becoming more empowered, by pulling more of your energy into the present moment to think, okay, this is happening. What's the best thing I can do in response? And very often, just the fact that you don't go into fear and panic is enough to give you the next step. Mm-hmm. And the way I've experienced that has very much been a sense of laying a template for the ones several steps behind who are, there's so many people at the moment on the planet suffering so much. We know that. And it's almost like we've to transcend and, as you said, transmute that creation, that very idea that life is meant to be a struggle. Because that reminds me, another thing that I've experienced over the past year is really this shift from what I call the Piscean energy of struggle, that back forth, like a washing machine wringer, of the two fish, push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. Shifting, to me, that's kind of like a planetary pattern, that sort of toroidal energy of the way the magnetics of a planet come out from the poles and swirl around the equator, and you know what I mean, like a donut. What it seems to me that our energetics, our personal energetics, are shifting to more of a galactic kind of singularity, where our energy is pulled into the center of our bodies. And I'd be interested if anybody else has had any experiences like this, where it's almost like you're pulling up your three lower chakras sort of high up under the diaphragm into a high place of where the third chakra normally is. And you're pulling down your sort of higher self-consciousness literally into your body, into a sort of a high heart position is where it is for me. And so that your sort of center is in the center of your body, and it actually spins in more of that, more like a hurricane or a tornado or a spiral galaxy. And what I got from that is that we're shifting into being able to create our own quanta directly, where we don't actually need to take the energy from the sun. And take it through our bodies and transmute it through our bodies to use it. Somehow, I think we're going to be able to literally create energy ourselves, and that's the idea of us really being manifesting a new level of sovereignty. I don't know exactly whether that's connected to 5D. It may well be, because as far as I understand it, and I know a lot of people with this false light idea are talking about removing their chakras and things. And, I mean, if that's what people feel guided to do, I'm not going to contradict them. But to me, it seems more that there's a natural transcendence of the sort of 3D, 4D chakra system. We're transcending it. We don't have to remove it. It's modifying. As we modify, we literally are creating the new human. And that's, I guess, this goes into the whole idea of, what's the so-called event. I personally believe that we are the event. What we are, the process that we are going through, even though it's a very confusing and strange process, it's literally a form of metamorphosis, where we're infusing all of our consciousness into this one collective I am presence here on the planet. And that is also how we are going to raise the planet back up, because the idea of ascension in other ways, I think, I intuit, has been, you drop the body and you do it that way, or you combust the body, you literally
turn into a light body.
Yeah, but the fact that we're doing it in a very different way in order to continue the environment for the others to exist, meaning rather than just doing an individual shift of consciousness, and even a group, a collective, like, the Maya disappearing, for example, rather than a group consciousness disappearing. We're doing this as a planet, and that's why it's this phase scenario of drawing people into resonance with this energy. But I really feel on some physical level, I mentioned before this decloaking idea, I kind of feel, I don't mean we're going to turn into looking like ETs, but I think we're going to create a new version of what a human being is, and it's going to be, you're going to be able to see it. I don't know whether it's going to be because we'll literally appear lighter, or because of the vibration that you'll be able to feel radiating from it.
I think it's the physical appearance is going to be the first clue. I mean, I think we're going to look younger. We're going to be healed. We're going to, when we are healed, because our DNA has been either, if you want to call it, activated, reactivated, corrected, whatever. All of the DNA of all species of human beings that we are, including the reptilian and all the other ET races. Along with bringing ourselves into this wholeness, we're basically going to be turning into a star, like a planet, a planet turns into a star. And we're just a microcosm of the planet and our human body, and we're bringing all of our soul essence back here. Well, I think you're going to be able to see it on a physical level, and I think that's going to get. I've always felt from the very beginning, and I've kind of shied away from it for a while, but I've always felt that I came here to do that, to, whether you want to call it rejuvenation, regeneration, or whatever, be, when the DNA, when we are perfected again, before the we were messed with, before the time, the fallen Atlantis and all that, all that is occurring really at the same time. And this time we're doing it differently. Like you said, we're not dropping the body, and we actually are using the body to create a new species of human to be able to incarnate into. Because what fun would it be to be in a spaceship all the time, travel the universe, and not be able to dock on a planet and enjoy and, have a vacation or whatever. That's what the planet was really supposed to be, is a place where people could do that connection with the planet organically through a body that was made of the same elements of the planet, and regenerate and live on the planet in a physical body. And then that all got hijacked. So really what we're doing is we're undoing everything. We've been that before, but then we've also evolved with the different ET genetics, the DNA that we've added along the way. So that's how we're going to be better, or even more spectacular than before. And
well, I absolutely agree, and but I also think it will be the resonant energy that you'll feel, like the tuning fork energy, and for people who are worried about then how we're going to transcend the matrix, again, it's like we'll be those little suns shining out in a collective way to make other people be more curious about what's going on, and to become interested, not because we're talking at them, as a lot of people do now to no avail. Yeah. But because they'll want to know, what are you doing? What are you eating? How are you living? How and
how come you look so young?
Yeah. I think that's true. I think that's.
I do too. Well, and I declare that. I declare that a lot. That Greg works a lot on using the power of his words and of his vibration to work on his DNA, and I think that the Earth is helping with that. I think that we're here to heal the Earth, but I think at the same symbiotic relationship, the Earth is here to heal us. I think we did come in as a superpower to be able to, to bring things back to normal, because things did get a lot out of control, and the spell that is on us, or was on us, was also on Gaia as well. And I think that 2015 is going to be, I've always said in my articles 2015 is going to be a huge turning point. What do you see 2015 as being? Do you think that the economy, is going to completely collapse, or do you think we're going to, move into a different kind of payment plan, or not payment plan, but a different kind of payment other than the dollar, because it has to go away, and then phase into basically not needing money? What do you think? How are we going to get through 2015, and what kind of changes are we going to be seeing?
That's a tricky question. I am not seeing specifics, I wouldn't say, other than what the clearest thing that I'm seeing is this wave, the next wave, which is us. And a wave after that, and a wave after that, meaning that harmonic resonance of shift. And I think what's going to happen is there'll be enough of us that we're almost going to, there is a sub-economy going on already, but I think we're going to reinforce a whole different kind of economy based on different demand for different things. So we're also going to be manifesting different kind of skills which will be called for. So I think on one level I see us being able to prosper, not in the old 3D way of having the big house and the money and the car, and not about that, but basically I think when you are able to be fulfilled in being exactly who you are and expressing exactly who you are, there's something so incredibly fulfilling and creative about that. And I think once we're tapped more than we are even now into our creative nature, I think we touched on before how now crises happen and yet we basically create our way out of them by staying balanced, and things turn up that you would never have thought could turn up just when you need them, for example. And it doesn't seem at the moment to be, it would be nice if it was a little bit more, but it always is just what you need when you need it. And so my feeling is that what is going to change during this year is our ability to create a different world. And it might be a bit of a subculture for a while. But one of the things I'm hoping to see transition and want to encourage people is to stop sort of focusing quite so much on the false light and the matrix idea, and think, well, okay, if I want to unplug my energy from that, if I want to see the parasite shrivel, where do I want to put my energy? What if, transcend the limitation of I can't, and maybe I can't right this moment, but if you start thinking about what you would if you could, you're starting pathways toward creating that. And I see that kind of manifestation starting to take off a lot more quickly, and us literally co-creating together. And even though, for example, you and I have only met for a few days in one place and a few days in another place and spend very little time together, because there's a resonant frequency that we understand, we can support each other. We can, and the sum total of the energy is more than the parts. And so I think the beauty is we don't have to worry about the how it's going to happen. We just have to imagine what we'd like it to look like for us individually and for the planet.
Yeah, we're creating it. Yeah. Well, and but it is we are a collective consciousness, and we have to work with what everybody else wants as well, and that's kind of the hardest part when society has turned to communication through texting and getting together on Facebook rather than actual face-to-face feeling each other out and respecting one another and being able to actually communicate. So, I think part of telepathy and things that we're going to be exhibiting in the near future are going to be able to feel again, feel just be able to know what people are thinking and feeling because you're feeling their vibration. Whereas, kids that are lost in texting and lost in their phones and everything, they can't feel that. They can only interpret, based on, I guess, I don't know. They're kind of lost in their little world as far as communication. We've got to bring those generation of the kids out of that. That's one of the most important things.
Yes.
To get their attention. What's going to get their attention is when we start exhibiting these powers of healing and powers that how they're going to be like shaking their heads, going, how'd you do that? If people are healed on the planet, how are they going to be controlled by the pharmaceutical industry or the medical industry? How are they going to be making any more money if we're healing ourselves and we're teaching people how to heal ourselves? So that's, I think, how it'll be dissolving away. But I just have this feeling that there's something big that's going to be happening in 2015. It's not going to instantly make everything appear, the way we want it, but I think it's going to get some people's attention, and I hope that it's, the first wave of the first or second wave of the people that are here to make a difference actually moving into a space where they have the tools that they need to start really kicking some major ass.
I personally think that's what it is. Because I think that's what's going to then catalyze a lot of other changes.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
And also, as people really, a lot of the hardship I think that we have gone through in the past, however many years, is really was the catalyst for people to remove their energy from all of these things that were really illusion. Like we were very much stuck in that sort of 1980, or I don't know if people remember, but that 1980s, 1990s illusion, and thinking that 2000 was going to be, that incredible doorway, and then what happened was really the opposite. But in a way that was kind of a pendulum swinging back in the wrong direction, in order to sort of recalibrate and wake a lot of us up. But I think for some reason I keep getting the metaphor of the birds tweeting. I think there's so many more of us talking and speaking and reaching out and shifting that it's I really do feel like it's going to expand exponentially, so that when that tipping point comes and when whatever that kind of new human that we're going to metamorphose into, when that happens, I think change from that point can be very quick, and I think it can be a lot of fun. It can actually be the relief of the sort of having climbed up the mountain. The relief of sliding down the other side, I think, could be a lot of fun.
Well, I'm ready, and I know Greg's ready, and I know you're ready, and I know all of our listeners are ready for that, because I know a lot of you that are listening tonight, you feel the same way that we do, and you know that you're here to be that. All you have to do is just claim the fact in your declarations that you are that, and you want to be that. You want to be the first waivers to really prove everything that we've been talking about. That you already have all of these synchronicities and these signs in your reality that are showing that this is real. This is happening. It's already happening. The ball has already been rolling down the hill, and it's been gaining momentum and getting bigger and bigger. So, listen, we don't have any callers, but we do have one question in the chat room. I do when I first started my show, the Cosmic Awakening show, we did have a lot of talk about UFOs and the Pleiadians, the Arcturian, different groups that whether they're actually here helping or not. The details really don't matter as long as people are as long as people are interested in something and are really having fun, talking about them, that's really all that matters. This is what we, are creating. This is what we're making of it. But the question in the chat room is by Ruth La Tourelle, and she says that she lives by Mount Shasta, and while she has seen craft there, she doesn't really understand the importance of, seeing the crafts flying around, and she wants to know if we can maybe touch on that. What is the importance of us being able to see all these ships? How does that have to do with us being the change, with us being the stars that are going to be shining bright and creating this new reality? Are those just government craft, or are they just here to show us that we do have support, but it is up to us? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, what comes to mind for me is the paradigm shift of once people can see them. I mean, I'm sure most people have heard of the idea of, native people not being able to see ships on the horizon. I don't know whether it was Australia or wherever it might have been, that because they had no context and no reason to be sort of looking out to see, there were apparently, and I don't know where this information originates and whether it's in fact true, but the idea is that they literally couldn't see the ships on the horizon until somebody was out there fishing or whatever and almost crashed into one. And so on one level, it's kind of like I hope people aren't frustrated with all my metaphors.
No,
it's like a canary in the coal mine. Who's going to notice? And is it they're going to be a 100th monkey scenario where it's really not for we know that there's life out there. We don't really need proof of it in ships in our skies. Maybe at some point, we're talking about tipping points, but maybe there'll be multiple tipping points. But if we create this resonance of harmony and this connection with the planet and this connection with each other, maybe that creates the foundation where suddenly totally asleep people are going to start seeing these ships and talking about it, and maybe finally the media isn't going to be able to cover it up. I mean, the fact it's kind of, again, to me, it's like a maelstrom. There's this information available, and it's rolling, and it's rolling, and it's there, and it's there, and it's there if you want to find it. But it's not if you don't want to find it, or if you're not prepared to look. So to me, maybe there are, God knows how many ships in the sky, and maybe some of, I'm sure some of them are government and some of them are malevolent and some of them are not. But maybe it's just literally something there to be noticed for those when they're ready to notice, and that's enough to make a great change. I don't want, by saying that we are what's going to be decloaked, it doesn't mean I'm discounting the idea of first contact and all of that kind of thing. But my personal feeling is that's going to come after, partly because of the free will aspect of the situation we're in. That's why we incarnated into physical bodies to participate, to be asleep and to wake up. And in our waking up and laying a pathway for waking up, we've literally macheted. I feel like I've macheted a path for others to follow, not in my footsteps, but energetically that it's possible in a 100th monkey way. And so, when people finally are ready, maybe by experiencing people like us, that's the little preparation that is needed for them to experience a real ET. And, I still keep strongly being guided with this idea of phases and stages and rolling, waves coming in, of opportunity to see a different reality. And certainly seeing actual ships in the sky would be pretty paradigm changing. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are other, for example, I have mixed feelings about the idea of whether there really was a Jesus or whether there were several people who fulfilled that kind of a role, and it's been conflated into one story.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel that regardless of the details, I do believe there have been masters or avatars or high-level conscious beings on the planet over periods of time, and I do believe that they came to seed the DNA with their consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And that is also why, a lot of those people historically have been targeted for, to be decimated, to remove that consciousness from the planet. But what would happen, for example, if suddenly people started actually remembering their contacts as a literal DNA of whether, in whatever culture you want to talk about, some kind of master being, and that started manifesting on the planet. What about, to me, I think one of the things I personally am really looking forward to, as somebody who has been a truth seeker my entire life, is the idea that I won't have to ask and take anybody's word for anything. We've all been amnesia patients, having to be told who we are by some story, and believe it or not. What if you actually can go back and remember anything you need to remember, not in some kind of abstract Akashic record way, but literally by going and just experiencing it in your consciousness to know.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that I do rhymes. I get a lot of information through these rhymes that just sort of pour out of me, and a lot of the information I get through that is this sense of almost an epidemic is going to flow through the consciousness, an epidemic of freedom, though, an epidemic of the truth, because when you know something because you know it, then that's the...
I get that a lot. How do you know all this? How do you know this? Prove it to me. I don't know. I just know it.
Well, exactly. And as more people get to have that experience, it's more than 100th monkey. It's, we're creating the foundational resonance for the dominoes to fall, and when they do, I think it's going to be really fun. I firmly believe that, and I think the other thing I don't think I've said is that a lot of the consciousness that is in separation, to me, that's the consciousness we're trying to save. There's a lot of that consciousness, in my opinion, is kind of ancestrally enslaved or entrapped. Mm-hmm. In the sense that when you're born into certain family lines, your free will, more than even our free will, is overtaken. And I think that in large part it's those people who have been coerced generation after generation after generation into that sort of control agenda where, yes, they might be controlling on the one hand, but only because they're totally controlled on the other. So, yes, I think there's a certain element of consciousness that will never give in. What did Charlton Heston say, in my cold, dead hands or whatever? And that consciousness may prefer to get recycled back into the great central sun rather than to deign to have to rejoin the rest of us. But I think there's a lot of that of consciousness in separation that is what we're here to really to free in a way. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to consider at least that side of it when looking at the whole false light matrix kind of agenda. Mm-hmm. The only other thing, I probably said this a little bit, but I wouldn't mind just reiterating the whole idea of duality, integration or resolution, especially you mentioned people who are just waking up, recognizing that 3D is very much, I call it a game of twos.
Yes.
And you have the masculine principle archetypally and the feminine principle archetypally. And to me, the ultimate trinity, there's in so many cultures and traditions, there's the idea of a trinity. To me, the ultimate trinity is really love, power, and wisdom, like a three-legged stool, where if you have all of those things in place, you've got stability and wholeness in the sense of, wise power being loving, or loving power being wise. Power on its own can be distorted. Love on its own can also be distorted if it's not empowered. We've seen plenty of people parent their children in a way that might be about love, but it's not actually beneficial. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of sort of integrating the duality is also, to me, not kind of meeting a neutral point where you sort of withdraw your energy from either side, but where you can see both sides and integrate them both. And I think, to me, that concept is at the heart of any practice. Where is my energy being split? Where am I being divided? Where am I feeling like a victim? Where am I feeling not good enough? Where is my ego being triggered, or my self-esteem being triggered, or my pride being triggered? Or, if you can take responsibility for any time your consciousness is being split, even if it's being split in terms of the false light matrix versus the organic matrix, that's where the false matrix has got you, because they've basically drawn you in that lateral continuum of struggle. And I think in recent years we've seen plenty of instances in politics where nothing actually gets achieved. It's just this tug of war along that flat continuum between left and right, or between, male and female, or between the haves and the have-nots, or the however you want to look at it, even within yourself, between I'm good enough, I'm not good enough, that's one way consciousness gets split. And it's in the kind of, if you think of a equilateral triangle, like that stool I was mentioning, with the legs of the stool, if you get stuck just in the power or the lack of power, that really is where you get stuck in the matrix. It's by integrating to the middle that you actually can take the vertical path, and the vertical path is integrating all of the different levels of your consciousness. And from that point, that's kind of the idea of being more heart-centered, more empowered, in not in the sense of emotion, but in the sense of a holistic, singular consciousness where you're integrating your entire being and making your choices from that point. So I really think, in terms of advice to anybody, that would be my core advice. Don't let yourself be split. And when you do get split, you do get triggered, look to see what the underlying purpose is. Is there some, generally there's a lesson in that kind of thing, whether it's, you don't like somebody because actually they're displaying the things you don't like about yourself, or they're displaying the things you wish you could display and can't, and that's all, basic 101 kind of metaphysics, really, and there are lots of good ways of pursuing that kind of information.
Well, and yes, and I agree with everything that you said. I'm kind of fading out here.
Yes, we've jumped around a lot.
Yes, and I'm really, and we meant to, and I'm really glad we did. We touched on a lot of things other than just declaring your sovereignty and revoking contracts. We didn't really talk much about contracts because I do have the article about that, and there are examples of certain contracts. If you want to get into details and sign some kind of agreement or contract to work for perhaps the false light or the beings that are lost, and you realize it, and you just simply stand in your power and say, well, maybe I was tricked, and I'm mad as hell, and I don't want to do that anymore, and that's it. But if you want to get into details about, there's a lot of people that are very detail oriented. There's a lot of people that are learning how to get out of their left-hand side of their brain into their more creative right-hand side, out of the logic and into the imagination, and that's really what these tools of declaring your sovereignty and revoking your contracts are meant to do, is to give you a tool to move, to be creative, but to use it's a balance again of the left and the right hand side of the brain, to be able to be logical and creative at the same time. So I am really fading out here. I'm going to have to wrap up the show.
Problem at all.
And I have so enjoyed connecting with you again. It's been such a pleasure to hear, one of my soul sisters speak. It just flooding back memories of how we planned to do this before we came here, and our family is here listening with us. And I encourage anyone who wants to, come on the radio, talk about what they remember about what we planned to do. And the more that we begin to remember, the more we're going to remember how we're going to finally reach that apex where we change our own reality and our own physical reality, and we are connected more with Source, and we're able to get all of those that we held within us about the history of the planet, and really start reforming education here on the planet, take away all the false stuff, and bring out the truth and teach people. And it is going to be a wonderful time, and I can't wait to do it side by side with you, Mary Jane Banks. And can you tell, I know you're working on a website too. How's that going?
Yes, I haven't got it quite up and running yet, but it will be soon. But I wouldn't mind giving my email address so that if anybody is interested in connecting or in going on a mailing list for, and I do have the website released, that I can alert them. I do private consultations. I do classes. I'm not running any at the moment just because time-wise I'm a little bit challenged. But if people do want to make contact, the email address is thestairwaytoeven.com, like the stairway to heaven, but instead of heaven, it's even, E-V-E-N, because that's another metaphor.
I love the metaphors, and I'd love to have you back on the show. And if you do get the chance to write some articles, I would love to publish them. And love to keep this,
Thank you.
This idea going. And I appreciate something here. And next week, folks, I am going to have a show. I'm going to have a show with Scott Moore, who's another one of my Facebook friends. You're going to be, meeting a lot of my friends. That's what we came here to do, is to meet and speak and share and imagine how we're going to change this reality. And so, Mary Jane, is there anything else that you wanted to say before we wrap up tonight?
No, I just wanted to say thank you to you for everything you're doing, and to Greg, and let's look forward to having a bit more fun.
Yes, I am looking forward to having fun. And so thanks for being with me tonight, and you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and let's stay in touch.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you.